This is Season 4, Episode 11 of my modular journey. And today I'm looking at the Qubit Electronics Nautilus module that I've had for quite a while as well. Qubit Nautilus, what do they call this thing? They call this the Subnautical Complex Delay Network. It came in around October 26th, 2023, along with Mojave. It also was $399. The Nautilus manual opens with this famous quote.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Described as a complex delay network inspired by subnautical communications and their interaction with the environment, Nautilus is ultimately a complex delay processor with 8 configurable delay lines each with up to 20 seconds of audio. There's also these modes like fade, Doppler, shimmer. It also offers Sonar, which is an envelope follower and or gate signal output for plucking something else external. Similar to Mojave we just looked at, the LED UI is gorgeous and serves a real purpose of showing the users visual feedback as to what's going on inside the module. Note that at least for this video, Nautilus was released before Mojave. I just happened to have recorded them in backwards order for some odd reason, but let's take a look at the module. We'll start with the mix knob here. As usual, fully counterclockwise is dry. Our raw audio coming from Platts over here through Pamela's new workout, hitting some notes and triggers. And if I turn it up, you're not going to see anything change because we're all pretty neutral here. But you hear a little bit of a delay. It's starting to sound like chords thrumming together. And that's because Nautilus is echoing what Platts is doing a moment later. And of course there's a clock input here, as well as a tap button for setting the clock. Right now I have it timed with Pamela, so everything's in sync. Up here is the resolution knob, and this knob, this is the module's divider or multiplier of the clock rate and how it changes each note played back. The thing I noticed is watch the kelp here, the kelp that's around the colored thing. As soon as you turn it up and it flashes a white, that is the multiplier changing to whatever the next multiplication is. So I'm going to move it up one more to a triplet mode, so that way you can hear it better. So with feedback off, it just kind of da-da, da-da, da-da. But as I raise feedback, this actually sounds really cool to me. But the higher you raise feedback, of course, the longer the tails are. Now over here is the sensors. Now sensors control the number of delay lines in the network, up to a total of 8, 4 per stereo channel. When fully counterclockwise, there's only 1 delay, which is what you're hearing right now, per channel. Or 2 of them because there's one on the left and one on the right. So if we start moving this clockwise, we're going to add 2 delay lines every time, one to the left, one to the right. And again, it flashes white when you change modes. So it's a little bit out of tempo here because the second set of delay lines is offset. There's 3, and then there's 4. Now there's 8 delay lines going on. So now we move down to this knob here called Dispersal, and Dispersal adjusts the spacing between the delay lines. So if you have these delay lines all perfectly set apart from each other, when you raise Dispersal, it kind of moves them around from each other, so it winds up scattering them around the stereo field. Can you hear that? Oh, I think this sounds amazing. Now that we have multiple sensors and we're dispersed, now we can mess with this reverse knob here. And what this reverse knob does is it takes, like, add a little bit, it'll take 2 of the lines and reverse them out of the 8 that are being played. And the higher you raise the reverse knob, the more of those lines get reversed. So let me lean a little bit more towards the wet side here. And I'm going to start reversing some of these. So there's the first one. You can hear it over here in your left ear. There's one of the lines is reversed. Let's raise it up higher. Now there's one on the right. And this is just great because it adds this little subtle changes to the sound. That's pretty awesome. So if I raise this up to about halfway, and back off the mix a little bit so we're still hearing the original sound. Maybe we'll raise the feedback a little bit more. Lower our dispersal. If I raise the resolution a bit. I think you're getting the idea of what's going on here. So the next 2 areas I want to talk about is depth and chroma. These 2 are linked directly together. So depth is a complementary knob to chroma. It's basically an attenuator for the chroma effects being applied, or the intensity of the chroma effects. When depth is fully counterclockwise, chroma has no effect to the sound. So this is important to understand, as I did not understand this until just now, writing the script. Depth is basically a fully on or fully off function, with the exception of the bit crusher, which we'll discuss and demonstrate in a moment. So chroma has 6 different settings in it, and you can tell what setting it is by the color of the kelp down here. So let me just, with this depth turned all the way down, you're not going to hear any changes, but if I roll this up, you can see it turns green, purple, orange, or amber, and cyan, and red. So let's go on down back to blue here. So blue is called oceanic absorption. This is a 4-pole low-pass filter for damping. Well, the manual says dampening, but I think the unperson says you dampen a sponge. You don't dampen your electronics. So I'm not sure if that's just a typo. But we're going to dampen, we're going to damp the delay signal. So for that, let's turn up our volume a little bit more again. And I'm going to crank up the low-pass filtering on chroma number 1. It's affecting only the wet side, not the dry side. I mean, the low-pass filter can take it out completely. So that makes sense. We're going to move up to one called Whitewater, which is a 4-pole high-pass filter. And again, the same thing with the knob. So the high-pass filter is in a green state. There's green kelp here. We're going to raise this. All right. So far, so good. So far, I understand it. The third chroma is called refraction interference. And this is where this knob takes a little bit of a change. Refraction interference is a collection of bit crushing and sample rate reduction. Depth, in this case, cycles through varying amounts of each effect. So let's turn this to the refraction interference mode, which is the purple kelp. And we're going to raise this a bit. Let me make sure I'm listening to the affected side. So right there you can hear it starting to change. So something you'll also notice, because this is the first time it actually matters in my brain, the higher you turn depth, the more of the kelp on this side changes to the same color as the chroma. See it? That's not cool. That's what I'm so overjoyed by these little things. It's kind of funny. So fully clockwise, of course, the kelp is now purple, just to match the chroma. Fully counterclockwise, it goes back to green. So the next one up is called pulse amplification, and this is the orange mode here. Pulse amplification is a saturation applied to the delays, and depth either removes it completely like here or makes it very saturated clockwise. This just sounds so good. And of course, keep in mind where feedback is, because feedback does exactly what you think it does. If we raise this, at certain points, these depths start running out of control. It just sounds so freaking great. All right, fanboying. Let's move on. The next one's called receptor malfunction. I'm going to move to the cyan color here. This one's actually my favorite one. It adds a wave folder distortion to the original input audio, which makes the delay effect sound amazing. Now we're going to raise our depth here. I love that sound. And then our last one is red here. Red means danger. So this is called SOS. I don't know why, but it is a very heavy distortion algorithm that blows this module out of the water. I mean, almost immediately it's heavy distortion. And of course, the higher it goes, the more distorted it gets, until it starts eating itself. It just sounds amazing. So this is just feeding back. I'm not feeding any more new signals in, it's just feeding back. It's just amazing. So this is a good opportunity to talk about the Purge button. Push Purge. Well, we're feeding back hiss now. Push Purge and it clears the buffer of whatever's going on. If you just saw what happened there, if I turn up the feedback all the way with no input signal whatsoever and raise this distortion, just the hiss of the distortion starts this feedback cycle. That's pretty ridiculous. So there is also a freeze mode over here, and freeze in this case allows you to make changes to any parameter outside of resolution. So now it's in a freeze mode. You can make all these other changes to everything else, and then come out of freeze mode. Now you're in freeze mode. Literally change everything back, come out of freeze mode to something simple. But the one thing that freeze mode does not freeze is resolution. So you can play with things, you can play with it even with while it's frozen. And we go fully wet here. So let's cover the delay modes now, and the delay is on this left side here. It's this little double link looking button here. In blue mode, it offers a smooth transition between delay times when changing things like the clock rate, resolution, or dispersion. All right, to show what that sounds like, we'll turn up the volume. And I'm going to twist the resolution here, and you'll hear it transition smoothly between resolution changes. So you hear that? And same with dispersion down here. The Doppler mode is kind of like a vari-speed time variant, which offers like a pitch shifting as you're changing resolution and time, and you'll hear that pretty clearly here. So this is kind of like, it reminds me of other delay effects when you change the clock. Its pitch shifts to compensate where it's going to, which can also be kind of fun. And the two knobs that seem to affect the most are the resolution and dispersion. That sounds so cool. Oh goodness. And our third mode is called Shimmer, so I guess you can imagine what that's going to do. We turn down the wet. I'm going to make it mostly wet so you can hear just a hint of the original signal and then what the shimmer is sounding like. Kill the clock. So what the shimmer mode does is it takes the incoming signal, pitch shifts it by an octave, and then feeds back and does it again. So that's why you keep hearing it climb higher and higher. And then deshimmer is the last delay mode, which does the opposite direction. It's going to unshimmer. It's going to shimmer in reverse. Which of course sounds better with a higher pitch, but here we are. This has got its place. Especially if we start adding some of the wave folding or distortions. Adding some more lines. Maybe dispersion. Just kind of, I don't know, I hear the musicality in this noise, again, far in the background of something else. Like maybe I've got a drone going. You know, or maybe I got a drum pattern. Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I absolutely love this module too, and so far Qubit is knocking it out of the park with me. I'm very much a fanboy. All right, moving on to the feedback modes, which are on the other side here. It's this little spray looking icon over here. In the blue mode, this is normal feedback, which just means that the feedback circuit affects or acts exactly the same as the characteristics of the input signal. So if I'm putting in left and right, it's left and right. If it's mono, it's going characterized as mono. So what that sounds like is what we've been listening to all along. Stereo input in, dispersion, multiple lanes, and feedback. Now when we go into the ping pong mode, this is where it starts bouncing back and forth from left to the right. I'm just going to turn on all the lanes for the rest of this and play with the dispersion. So I think what I'm learning right now as I'm recording this is between resolution and dispersion is when you can actually set your patterns. Otherwise it could be just kind of chaotic. All right, the next mode is called Cascade. And this one is described in the manual as each delay line feeds into another one continuously, which means that each delay line, like the one left, I'll have to put a picture of this up on the screen here so you can see what I'm talking about. The left one goes to the left 2, to the left 3, to the left 4, and then back to left 1. And it does that through its feedback. And while the right side is doing the same thing. So it's still separate in the stereo field, but it sounds pretty cool. And then the very last mode is called Adrift. This one's interesting because it's still a cascade. It combines cascade with ping pong. So the left one is now feeding into the right 2, and then back into the left 3, and then up into the right 4, and then opposite on the second channel. So they're ping-ponging back and forth, and you can hear that in the signal. This might be my favorite mode. Throw a little reverse in there. Tune the timing so it sounds just right. And of course, Purge just empties the buffer. The last things on the module are a sonar jack, which is an output here, and the manual says that is like a envelope follower signal or a gate to run something else. Like maybe you need a VCA to be triggered by this thing's clock. There's also the USB doohickey here that you take this out, pull this out, bring it to your PC, and go onto the Narwhal app and program, which I don't have any experience with yet, but there's supposed to be a whole bunch of different things you can configure. Read the manual on Mojave and Nautilus here, and each chapter, each topic seems to have a Narwhal configuration alternative you can do with it. It's pretty cool. Now that I'm done showing what it sounds like, which is a little out of order, let me talk about why I chose it. As I said in the Mojave video, I really enjoyed the Qubit module design and their philosophy towards sound design and effects modules. I was looking for another FX module, and Qubit was the current interest at the time, having already fallen in love with Databender. As far as use cases, I've already published an hour-long exploration into Nautilus back in December of 2023. When I didn't know anything about it, I was just twisting knobs. I'll put a link up here and in the description to that video if you want to hear more sound demos. How I plan to use it moving forward is as part of my FX sends from Performance Mixer, along with Databender and or Mojave, or to put Nautilus at the end of chain of any other voice that requires a specific effect before heading into the mix. So there's dozens of applications, but FX chain is likely what I'll use in my setup. I've already done a sound demo through this whole thing, but I think I'll end this on a patch that I did the other day for Christmas while I was learning how to use the module, and we'll just end with that. So that's it for episode 11, the Qubit Electronics Nautilus Subnautical Complex Delay Network. Coming up next is the very, very long-awaited Volt Freak manifold filter. So stay tuned for that.